Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, my name is Hank Blank, and I'm glad to be here on the Break It Down show.
And now, the Break It Down show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
I am a marketing consultant. Well, what does that mean? I do a lot of things because of my network. So first, the big thing about me is that I'm Canadian. Good time to be a Canadian, but, you know, when you grow up in Canada, it defines you differently.
Yeah.
Know?
How so?
Because, you know what, I'll tell you a story. How so? Well, you know, we live in a country that's like a mouse next to an elephant.
Yeah.
And when the U.S. sneezes, we always used to say, Canada gets a cold.
Right.
And the thing about in Canada, it's a very diverse nation, lots of different folks. And the reason why, no matter how much money you have or what religion you are, you're all as equally cold.
Yeah.
You know, so it is the common kind of, let's say, it equalizes things because you're freezing your ass off, you know?
Yeah.
You might have a nicer coat, but, you know.
Why is it that, I mean, the U.S. is very diverse. Canada is very diverse. Maybe because they're together, but also just because it's just a place that attracts people for whatever reason. But why does Canada have a much more, it seems like you guys have a much more unified approach to things. We have in the U.S., a very disparate, like I've got my needs, you've got your needs, you know. How do you guys manage to stay on the same page?
Well, I think maybe part of it is our British tradition we're a little bit more orderly.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Canadians can be, you know, and I think you were started by a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't started by a revolution. We were started by a political process.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
We weren't colonized. We were colonized. We did the same bad things to our First Nations, but maybe we didn't, you know, kill them, but, you know, now. And I think that we had a philosophy, the U.S. was a melting pot.
Yeah.
And we were considered ourselves a vertical mosaic.
Okay.
So you can be Chinese Canadian,
mm-hmm.
and you know, and you had your community,
right?
You know, and you didn't have to blend. So you know, when I was growing up in Toronto, you know, you had 5 blocks this way is Chinatown, 5 blocks this way is Little Italy, 5 blocks this way is the Jewish area, 5 blocks this way is a different area, right? And so, and you know what? And don't forget, Canada has 35 million people in a country larger than the U.S.
It's enormous, right?
It's an enormous.
But almost all of you live within 50 miles of the border.
100. That's what it is. 100.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. And then you guys didn't have a revolution, but you were part of it. I mean, there was parts of Canada that were like, that's America now. Like, well, no, it all got sorted out. But you guys were definitely, the elephant was making a lot of ruckus.
Oh, yeah. There was 54-40 or fight. They wanted to own everything up to Alaska. Mm-hmm. But don't forget the last time the White House burned down, Canadians did it. They were actually Brits.
Was it Canadians that did it? Yeah.
Well, Brits. Canada
sure.
wasn't a country until 1867. But they were, you know, they're Canadians, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's different. I think they also said that the reason why we have so many great Canadian comics like Eugene Levy and Martin Short,
John
you know,
Candy,
John and Candy, yeah, you can go on and on to this day, is that we see you, you know what, so we compare, we're close, really close to being like you, right?
Yes.
But we're still a step away, so we can parody you easily.
Yeah.
You know, we have that, that isolation yet the knowledge, you know. So yeah, it's it's good. And kind of got deflected there. So I started my career in Canada working at an agency on McDonald's. That's when McDonald's had good food, and if you opened up a McDonald's, people would line up to go there.
Yeah.
Because hey, it's from the States. Hey, look at that, look at that McDonald's there. Eh? And then I worked for JWT, huge agency in Toronto and Chicago, multinational firm. Shows that brand was started. JWT started like in the 1870s. And this year, WPP, the holding company, merged it with Wonderman and called it Wonderman Thompson. And even give him second billing. I don't know. That's how much the world changed. An agency with 150 years of heritage.
Yeah.
And they gave it second billing to an agency, Wonderman, that probably 1 out of 100 people would have ever heard of it.
Sure.
And so I did that because in those days, everybody, let's say the U.S. was the show.
Okay.
Right? So if I worked for JWT in Toronto, had the largest agency in Canada, had 140 people.
Right.
You went into New York office and they had 1,500 people.
Right.
And you went, wow, this is cool, right?
Yeah.
This is cool. And they had a real big concern about the brain drain, right?
Okay.
And, that's why I'm here in California. You had Joni Mitchell singing, I'm going to kiss the sunset pig, California coming home, right?
Yeah.
So this was everybody in many fields, and I think that's dramatically slowed down recently. And after I left JWT, I ran the national Domino's pizza business, and I always wanted to come to California, so I came here. I was here when I was like 21, 22. I sat on Laguna Beach and said I want to live here.
Yeah.
Now we're 3 miles from Laguna Beach, or maybe 5 for where we are here in Irvine. And I always wanted to live in California, so I came out here in 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And the agency landscape was very different. Like this was all small agencies.
Yeah.
Right? Homegrown agencies. But I joined one. I worked there for 9.5 years. We grew it. It had advantages, Orange County, it has traffic, but it's not the same as LA.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I've been doing it, and I've been a consultant for 15 years. And my claim to fame is my network, right?
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yes. And I have Hankism, a marketing piece where it said, I'm employed by my network.
Right.
And people say to me sometimes, what do you do? And I go, well, it depends on what year, right?
Right. Yeah.
15 years ago, there was no social media.
Yeah.
Now I'm very active in social media. 10 years ago, we had a huge recession.
Right.
I was in recruiting. Now, the last 5 years, because of my network, I do a lot of staffing.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people. Good people are hard to find. Companies, majority still want to do it in-house to save the money, but I do staffing, right?
Right.
When 10 years ago, I probably did a lot of websites. Companies were getting,
Sure.
to that. Now, that's a mature field, right?
Right. Yeah.
But, so I am employed by my network, and what I do varies. And what I do, sometimes it's serendipity.
Where's your office?
In my house.
But where's your real office? Like, where do you work?
I 2 ways that I really work.
Because we're not in your office right now.
Well, I was here having a meeting for with my buddy Pete. Helping him get some new business, right?
Not this Pete, that Pete.
That
right.
Pete, yeah, different Pete. And so I'm here, and I'm working when. You know what? I'll give you another answer. Today's Friday, right?
Yeah.
People say to me, I'll go to the bank, and they'll say, "Have a great weekend." And I go, Fridays aren't the same for me as if you work for a company, right?
Yeah, right.
Fridays, you go, oh boy, it's the end of the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I'll do some work on the weekends, maintenance work, follow-up work. And but on Sunday night, I don't have that feeling like, oh, holy smokes, I got to go to work tomorrow.
Right. Yes.
It's different. And I'm working when I'm, at networking events, and I'm kind of always on. They say Canadians wouldn't talk to each other unless there was bad weather, but I'm one of those Canadians. I talk to people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll talk to people, and I can be in Albans and meet people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I met people last night. And going back to what I do, I'll give you an example. In the recession, I speak often. I speak on new business development. I spoke on networking. And I spoke in Cleveland Ad Club, and it was terrible, terrible. That was the year, I think, 2008, 750,000 people lost their jobs in a month.
Right.
Remember that? And now we go, well, that's as much, now we're, an economy, we've added 250,000 jobs.
Right.
In 1 month, 750,000. I think.
Gone.
I think there were like 1.5 million jobs were gone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to the Cleveland Ad Club. When you work for yourself, you have to create a job for yourself
Right.
each and every day. And they say, consulting is, the definition of consulting, it's like jumping off a tall building without a parachute, hoping you find one before you hit ground with a check in it.
Yeah.
It's about, you got to make your own living, right?
Sure. Right.
And so I'm on the plane going, what the hell am I going to Cleveland for? They pay my travel, but they don't pay money. I go, none of these agencies are going to hire me, blah, 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 blah. So just before I was going to speak, a guy hands me this card, and it goes, Cleveland, Buenos Aires. And I had worked with a guy, and I had returned from Buenos Aires, was wearing a jacket from Buenos Aires, because Buenos Aires was extremely affordable in those days. They had a devaluation, and Argentina isn't like going to. It's a different country because think of it as Paris in South America.
Yeah.
It's the way it's laid out. 60% of the people are Italian, the way they eat. And a guy hands me the card and says, Cleveland, Buenos Aires. And, they went into a recession, but they called me a few years after that, maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe a little longer, and I'd stay in touch with my online content. And they said, hey, Hank, can you connect us to, we have 50 programmers in Buenos Aires.
Right.
We did the solution for our own agency, but we wanted to market it private label to other agencies. And I said, they said, can you come down to Buenos Aires? I said, sure. So I ended up working for them for about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
But who would have thought,
right,
from Cleveland, Buenos Aires.
In a terrible time to find a job.
Yeah, and I ended up working with them, and they probably paid for 3 or 4 trips to Buenos Aires. And in Buenos Aires, my apartment is $30 a night.
Yeah.
In a nice area.
Yeah.
So, that was good. So, did I plan that? No, but that gave me certain. And when I got into that field, I'm not a programmer,
Right.
but my depth of knowledge about programming, not actually doing code,
Right.
but how the languages and what are the advantages.
What's possible and everything.
Yeah.
So I want to get into this a little bit because a lot of what you do and a lot of what I have done as a spy are very similar. I've got to have a powerful network. And everybody's like, well, you can't tell people you're a spy. Of course you can. I'm here to find things out. I'm here to ask questions. I want to make sure everybody's safe.
You're a spy?
Yeah, right. So I would go out into Iraq and Afghanistan, and I got to find things out.
Oh, yeah, when you were in the Army, in the military.
Right, exactly. But it doesn't do any good to go out and say, where are the bombs? Hank, where are the bombs?
Yeah.
Right? Because no one's going to answer that question. So you go out and you say, tell me what's going on. How are things? How is the weather? All of these things.
Were you in uniform? Or a civilian when you did that?
It depended on the mission.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to ever. I'm always with the Americans. I'm always here to ask questions. I'm always here, gathering things. I want to make sure people are safe. I say that stuff all the time. So it wasn't about hiding. I was being obvious. I wanted to be different. I wanted to become a resource, right? A node in these networks that I created. Because not only do I have access to all the ne'er-do-wells in town, I also know all my friends who turn out are ne'er-do-wells a lot of times too, because they want to go out and smash things and kill bad guys and kill anybody, Yeah. So being that node in between, my job was really to build a powerful network so that the information would just, like your parachute with the check in it, it would just come to me like, hey, get that guy, Pete, grab him. And so I would always use my name. I'm Pete. I didn't use a fake name because I wanted to be a resource to everybody, like known, almost by like a brand.
Sure.
And
Did they trust you though?
Yeah, I worked on. I always. That's why I didn't lie. I didn't lead with deception. I always led with trust.
Were you in Iraq and Afghanistan?
Yeah, both.
Yeah, my parents before my time lived in the Middle East from 41 to 40, 49. My sister was actually born in Beirut.
Oh, was she really? Okay.
Yeah, and Canadians fought in Afghanistan pretty early, but not not but not in Iraq. And my mother was spoke fluent Arabic, and the Middle East. She had Arabs one day and Jews the other. That part of the world, somebody 4,000 years ago, somebody stole a chicken, and it's still, you do not want to, it's a mosaic, you do not want to touch that. You know what I mean? And I don't know if we had, anyway, I don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right, though, because when you go to the root of who the bulk of the people are, they're all Semites.
And they're nomads.
Right, they're all nomads. So they all come from the same stock. It's just, someone stole a chicken.
Right.
Someone said something bad about somebody's auntie and took offense, and
yes,
and it grew from there. And there is some real hate.
Or they get angry. Or they have short fuses.
Right, but they're no different than really anybody else. I mean, the same things happen in Canada. They happen in China. They happen everywhere. And so that's sort of what I relied on as the common denominators of people. Everybody hates cancer. Everybody wants their kids to be safe.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right. And so those are the things like my peers would say, oh, they're all so different in Afghanistan. Are they?
No.
I bet they have things that they do to pass the time.
You know what? I was recently in London for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And I remember we went to this place in Hyde Park, and it was a winter caravan, a winter carnival. And it was fantastic, right?
Yeah.
And they had rides, and they're selling bratwurst, and they had mulled wine.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a big deal. It was like a county fair in terms of the number of rides. And I remember walking out. We were probably left there like 5 or 6, and coming into it were just like a huge line of people with strollers, because they're taking their kids there, right?
Sure, yeah.
And it was all kids and strollers and young kids, right? And I said, and I said, there's the uniformity, because some were Muslims and they were in their headscarves, right? But it really didn't matter. Some were, some weren't, some all different shades. But the common factor was, we want our children to go and have a great time. That was the common thing, and that was what bonded people. I don't think you look at anybody else and say, well, you know what, I don't want your kid to have fun there. Everybody wants their kid to have fun there. And everybody, when they giggle, and that's when, everybody will smile. You know what I mean? And that's there is a lot of, there are some things that will ground you that way.
So as you go out and you network people in, and obviously you're a seasoned network, a lot of this stuff is just tacit knowledge for you, but there must be things that trigger you to like, oh, okay, this person is this, or some kind of categorization maybe.
First, I think that I'm a natural connect the dots. I think my first CD was called Connect the Dots Networking, right?
Okay.
Because let's say you were in Afghanistan, Iraq, right?
Right.
So I could go to a networking event, and I will find somebody that that I could connect you with, and that probably might have been in Iraq. You know what I mean?
Right.
The same thing, but you know what? Because my brother was born in Poland, my sister was born in Beirut, and I was born in Canada.
Right.
So you know what? I often connect people. Hey, you're both from Hong Kong. I'll walk into a room and I'll be able to do that, or or they'll have interests. I'll say, hey, where are you from? I did this a couple of weeks ago. There were 2 people there, and they had one had just moved here from Minneapolis, and I knew 2 people that were in that room that were from Minneapolis. Or the next, and they'll say, where are you from? Minneapolis. I'll go, hey, you've got to meet this person, and I just leave them, and they'll have a conversation, right?
Right.
So I can connect the dots that way. Most people don't like networking, and because they think of Mr. and Mrs. Martini person, You know, people that are going to come up to him and say, "Hi, how are you? You know, I'd love to do business with you."
Yeah.
They don't even know what you do.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I mean? And sometimes they say, and that's what makes people not like networking, right?
Right.
But you can't.
Well, let me
Go ahead.
pause you right there because we had a guy named Kayvon. He's from Europe. He connects people over there, and he does a lot of investing in tech. And so everybody wants access to his Rolodex because there are people that are fabulously wealthy and they invest in things. And so he basically put out a rule list or like his guidelines on LinkedIn, like if you want to be introduced to somebody, you know, accomplish these things. Because if I go to you, like, hey, like let's say you know Jack Nicholson or whoever's going to be someone really important, you know, I can't just come up to you and say, hey, introduce me to Jack Nicholson. So he was trying to give people guidance on that.
Yeah.
Now you definitely approach this differently.
I have a similarity with him. You know what? Because people will come up to you and say, "Hey, I'd love to do business with you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't give them time of day. And then there's some other code, CODE. You know, they'll say, "Well, who are your clients?"
Right.
What that means is they want me to sell what they have to my folks.
Right.
You know, and I say I don't have clients. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can tell who's genuine and not genuine. You know, but I'm a big believer, you know, and I've got tons of content on networking. But, you know, I'm a big believer. Like I will tell you, people used to say to me once, or often I've heard, I don't like, especially during the recession, oh, I don't want to go to those groups. There's a lot of people in transition there. I'd go to all those groups. You know what? I met somebody that was in transition. I have done probably 10 projects for her because she was incredibly smart.
Right.
She just happened to be in the recession. Nobody was buying motorcycles.
Sure.
Nobody was buying cars.
Right.
Nobody was buying jacuzzis.
Yes.
Nobody was even buying tires because I worked on Toyota tires, and they wouldn't buy tires until their tires were bald.
Right.
Or had a flat. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Right down, you know, took all the rubber off.
Right.
And nobody was buying anything, right? And she was got caught up in that, but she got a job pretty quickly. And because, you know, and I helped her. And I'm a big believer in that, helping people in transition. Now, it can be very time consuming, right? But I do try to do that, and I do that for social currency, right?
Kayvon Nikju. I remember the guy's name. I wanted to say it out loud so I could.
Kayvon,
Nikju.
what's he, Hungarian almost? No.
No, I think he's Iranian or
Yeah.
Persian.
Persian,
and then some other things mixed in. But he lives in Amsterdam.
Oh.
You were saying.
I was just talking about, you know, networking, how people don't like it, and I was
Right.
getting into people networking with people in
people in transition.
transition.
Right. So when people are transitioning, people are always in transition. Either they love what they do and they want to bring people in.
Yeah.
They're trying to figure out how to get into something. They're always in some kind of transaction to try to improve their position, whether
Sure.
it's, you know, get a better job or improve the place they're at or develop a project. But I wanted to go back a little bit to trust with you because you asked me, like, you know, how do you build trust and everything? And I definitely measure it. You know, I come from a stable place. I have money. I have all these things. So I can extend trust on credit. I can extend trust to you easily because we both do similar business and we're both in Orange County. But if you were a Polish farmer, you know, you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I've got to earn that trust with you. So I can extend it to you, and then I can slowly, and this is how I do it as a spy, I can slowly ask little small things, very low risk things. Hey, can I come by sometime? Sure. Is there a time that works for you? Because I've got to be very careful because I've got a whole gang of guys with guns, you know, like I would like to come to your farm and hang out more, and he's like, I got to feed all these guys. So I got to account for all these things. So you ask for small things, and slowly you develop a friendship, but it's a very delicate process because I have a lot of influence that isn't a healthy influence. It's a gun-based influence, and that's not going to get me where I want.
No.
How do you test and develop trust?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I used to do, you know, how do I learn to trust people, or
How do you build trust?
how do you build trust? One of my networking tips was always go to a networking event with 25 cards in your hand, not in your wallet, and a pen. And why a pen? Because I said the card tells you what that person's doing, but it doesn't tell you what's important to them. And during the course of a conversation, they might talk about going to Paris.
Yeah.
And when I follow up with them, I don't say, hey, I want to get together and do business with you.
Yeah.
I might say, hey, you might enjoy this. Here's 36 hours in Montreal from the New York Times.
Right.
Right? Or, you know what, if they talk about their kids and their twins, I might connect them to somebody I know in the business who also has twins.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if it's, because that's how you get to second base, right? And we have a group here in Orange County, and it's called Canadians in OC.
Okay.
Right? We have 700 people in that group.
Right.
13% of California's trade is with Canada. People don't know it, but a lot of it is in produce. There's a good Canadian word, produce. But, also in entertainment, also very much in the healthcare space, everything from med device to pharma products, technology. And when you come and I could tell you companies here that used to were run by Canadians. Like there's something like 750 companies in Southern California run by Canadians, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk to somebody like that and you meet a fellow Canadian, you're already at second base, right?
Yeah.
Because they trust you, right?
Yeah, sure.
Because
the military is the same thing.
Yeah.
What do you need? No problem.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. If you kind of what was my, it's almost, I had a saying, you get more by asking for less and doing more for others.
Sure.
Yeah. But there's also a lot of abuse in networking. I get I get people on, hey, we're connected on LinkedIn, can you introduce me to this person?
Right.
I just ignore it.
Yeah.
I've got 25,000 people on LinkedIn because I've been doing it for so long, right? I'm not going to introduce everybody because LinkedIn doesn't make you a Canadian. You know what I mean? It's not a fraternal bond. You know what? It's a platform, right? And one of the other challenges I have is I get given away often. So I'll give you, Pete loses his job. He goes to Bobby. Bobby, he says, you know what? We have to have lunch. Bobby says, you know what? I'm getting ready to go to a CES show and or a trade show, and I'm really, really busy. But have you ever heard of that Hank Blank guy? You should reach out to that Hank Blank guy.
Yeah.
And they reach out to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I go, well, what do I do? I can't see everybody in the world. I got to,
Yeah.
So I get given away. But then, it's also very rewarding. And I think a big part of my network strength is, I gave you my Hankisms book, right?
Right, yeah.
That was, that idea was developed by somebody I started working with when he was 24.
Yeah.
My YouTube guy is 30 now, you know what I mean? But I met him when he was 24. But he went to school, USC School of Cinematography. Does he know how to shoot a video? Yeah. I would say yes.
Yes, he does.
Yes, so I think that's the other thing is, what I tell people, if you just network with people who are you're going to live in a homogenous world.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're all different. If you just hang around with people just like you're going to have vanilla.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing about my network is not only it's very diverse and it's very broad and also very young.
Yeah.
But you develop that, I mean, I have a poster that was done of me, and it's a pain, right? Because I remember once I was speaking at Cal Baptist, and it was like, okay, come speak to our class at 6 o'clock. And then I said, well, Cal Baptist is in Riverside down the 91. That traffic starts going around 3:30. It's solid, right, on the 91?
Yes.
I never knew that was that far. So I had to basically leave at 3, go hang out in the Starbucks. I got there at 4:30, hang out in the Starbucks for an hour and a half. And then that finished, and I probably got home at 8:30. And I said, that's 6 hours.
6 hours, yeah.
But
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business, or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
Reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner,
or at JohnLG69.
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
30, and I said, that's 6 hours.
6 hours, yeah.
But a lot of those people, I could tell you, Kyle Reddy, who did my poster, they've gone on in careers now, and I'm connected to them, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's replenishing my network too,
Right.
which is key.
You mentioned LinkedIn, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you in marketing, where we're able to scale through technology and get to a lot of people. With the show, right? We've got Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, on and on and on. But it's really hard to have depth in that network because you can't scale being Canadian, right? Like this is what you are, but that face-to-face time, that handshake, even that phone call, I can't have a phone call with 1,000 people. It just doesn't work.
Do you know what? And I'm a big believer, although I have, a very robust social media presence.
Sure, and I'm not. Yeah, you need both.
Yeah, but in the end, you know what I say? Even though I have 25,000 people on LinkedIn and 120 videos on YouTube, right? And over 100,000 people have viewed it, FaceTime, not Facebook, leads to relationships.
Right.
We still do business with people, right?
Yeah, right.
I've never had a stranger on LinkedIn or a stranger anywhere reach out to me and say, Hank, I've never met you. You know what I mean? I want to do business with you.
Yeah.
Just doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
They might get referred to me and I don't know them, but
Sure.
there's some
There's a
touch
connection,
point,
yeah.
there's some connection as opposed to it's totally random.
Right.
We
had Mark Schaefer on a while back, and he talked about how 95% of the business he gets, he's a marketer, comes from an unknown source. Like, oh, I love your stuff, but never interacted with him on social media.
Yeah.
Maybe they read it, maybe they're on the mailing list, maybe not, but they're sort of on the outside of his network. He has no idea they're there, and they're like, by the way, come speak, come work on this or whatever.
Well, is he local?
No, he's sort of national now.
Yeah.
But no, he's not located here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know what, the one thing that came to my mind, if you're out there and you're doing it, people will be out there building a reputation for you.
Right.
They
Yeah.
talk about you.
Yeah.
You know what? They do talk about you. If you have a value, a human value, they talk about you.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I often get somebody that will call me and say, hi, I'm Bobby, and Billy McFarland gave me your name.
Right.
And I have no idea who the hell,
Yeah,
who the
yeah.
heck Billy McFarland is.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and I'll go on LinkedIn, I go, do I know a Billy McFarland? So I think, here's what I think is important. To build a network, to meet people, you have to have an attitude of engagement.
Okay.
That's what it really comes down to. You have to have an attitude of engagement.
What are the elements of that, though?
A willingness to talk to people,
Okay.
right? A willingness to, as opposed to staying in your own cocoon, engagement, right?
Okay.
And engagement isn't necessarily, it could be, hey, if it's cold out, if it's raining, when I've gone to Vaughan sometimes, right? And I'll see somebody and they are wearing a Canadian. I did this once. I go to Vaughan's. Somebody's wearing a T-shirt that says Banff. I said, "You Canadian?" He says, "Yeah, I'm Canadian." And then I pull out a Roots bag. I'm Canadian. And I had it happen once. And a third person on the same pad, same time said, "Yeah, I'm from Toronto too." But I had to tell the person, "Hey, are you from Canada?"
Yeah.
Right? So people can do it. Like if they went to USC, hey, you're a Trojan, huh? But you have to ask those questions and or have that engagement. I remember once I told you my brother was Polish, my parents were Poles, and I don't speak too many, I know 2 or 3 words in Polish. I wish I still remembered it because it would help me with other languages. But at my Vaughn's, there was a cashier, Grace, and she was Polish. And I used to say dzień dobry, like hello, do widzenia, goodbye.
Yeah.
And at Christmas one year, she baked me a poppy seed cake and gave it to me
Nice.
at Vaughn's. And I'm going, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She made me a poppy seed cake. How
Right.
many people at Vaughn's, how many cashiers have made you something?
Yeah,
And
give
you're like,
you food at the grocery store.
Right? But the reason why is because they do that. And
Right.
sometimes people around me, they get, they can get a little, they're a little sensitive, and I'm not. Maybe because the different countries and continents really that have streamed into my consciousness from my family, right?
Sure.
So a person has an accent, I'll say, where are you from? Now a person will say, well, why did you say that? You know what I mean? And, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be asking them, do you think that they're, if they have an accent, they're, they're out to do something to you or something, But I've been in a cab and the guy goes, yeah. I said, where are you from? He goes, I'm Lebanese. My sister was born in Beirut. Oh, really? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I talk to my Uber drivers.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And you learn a lot, right?
Yeah.
I remember once I got in an Uber in Minneapolis. I remember this, and I sat in the front seat, and I asked the guy. I said, "Well, what do you do?" And he says, "I'm a minister." And I go, "You're a minister? You do this?" And he says, well, you know how much it pays. It doesn't pay that well. And I'm running the music program, right?
Right, yeah.
So I do this for extra money. I said, well, what shifts do you work? He says, normally I work from 10 to 2 in the morning. And I said, oh, when all the drunks are out there? He says, yeah. And I said, well, I guess that's a good time to save people.
Yeah, spiritually and physically, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so you've got this network, and you understand the engagement is the main element for you, and I guess sprinkle in some curiosity. And then you talked earlier about your depth of knowledge, like with coding and other things. Very similar for me too, where whatever the topic is, I either can be curious about it because I don't know about it, or I have something akin or directly related to that.
Yeah.
That I can allow. I can create a commonality that the other person doesn't necessarily. Because as the connector, as the interlocutor, like as I'm coming into their relationship, it's on me.
Yeah.
To create the impetus for this interaction, because they were just trying to stand in the line at the Vons, and buy their rutabaga or whatever. So you have to inject some kind of personal energy and connection into these things.
Sure.
I've used that a lot. When you are trying to do that, do you have certain things like in your bag of tricks? You're like, this always works or whatever.
No, I start with I like accents, because somebody can be from Boston, right?
Sure.
And then what I remember, I'll give you an example, but the meeting part, I'll give you a good example. And but you have to get this in when you meet. So I was connected to somebody. This was in the recession, and he was in technology, and we were having a networking meeting, right?
Okay.
Somehow I got connected to him. He walks in the Starbucks, he opens his mouth, and he says, he starts talking, and he goes, I'm going to do a Boston chowderhead accent. He goes, but basically he was from Boston. See Boston?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, Bruins fan? Yeah, Bruins fan. I'm a Habs fan. And then we started talking about it.
Right.
But on LinkedIn, there's no accent.
Yeah.
In an email, there's no accent.
Right.
And then I said, so were you born in Boston? He says, no, I was born in Lebanon. I says, my sister's in Lebanon.
Yeah.
And then I covered, he showed me the territory. He had Latin America was part of his coverage for his sales. He was selling, software or, big enterprise software. And I said, have you ever been to Buenos Aires? He said, I have 2 apartments in Buenos Aires. I ended up staying in an apartment in the same building where he owned 2 apartments.
No kidding.
But it came from an accent.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Because the accent led to Boston. Boston led to hockey. Hockey led to more, talking about your background, right?
Yeah.
Talking about the background led to, and here was the business thing. You worked in Latin America? Oh, you got Buenos Aires? Kaboom.
Yeah.
So it's one of my spots.
Let me just ask you one real quick
Sure.
question. Someone who's sitting there at their desk right now and they're trying to figure out what it is they want to do, and they're like, I need a better network. Simply simple start. Where do you go so you can do it every day and repeat
Well,
it?
first find out where the networking groups are, right?
Okay.
And you have to attend them. And it's a pain. It's like most people rather, including me, I'd rather stay home at night, have a glass of wine, than go make the commitment to go out there, right?
Yeah.
But I would do it online. What I would do is make sure you have a very strong LinkedIn profile with keywords about the things that you do, like blogger, speaker, podcaster. That's
Right.
the first thing. The other thing to stay in front of people, you need to update you need to post at least once a day.
Yeah.
With relevant information, your thought leadership, not who won. You don't go on LinkedIn and talk about who won the hockey game. You go on there telling people
Sure.
that you're smart.
Yeah.
You do podcasting. So what you should be doing is posting things about podcasting,
Yeah.
media, the growth of podcasting. Here's a great podcast, top 10 podcasts, whatever it is, right? And then I think, getting that attitude of engagement is key, because that's the wiring, right? And I tell people, I've had a blog, networking for shy people. People go, I'm too shy to go to networking events. I go, you know what you do? You go early. If you're the first one there, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has to talk to you. There's nobody else to talk to except you.
Yes.
And so you sit by the bar and you stand by and then so everybody has to talk to you. Right? And then the other thing I have is network alone. You go to a networking event with your buddy, you're going to stand next to your buddy all day long, and you're going to talk to people that you know. That's socializing. That's not networking. You have to make that commitment, and you have to go talk to strangers.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of advantages, because in networking, you can talk. You can go up to anybody at a networking event who you might be intimidated by. And I remember I went up and the other thing is, know the people, and if you can know something about the people that are going to be there. I love getting a list of people that are going to attend the event, because I check them out.
Yeah.
And I don't know why Lebanon's coming up, but there was a guy that ran a division of Lennar. And I remember going to a networking event, and what I would do is, if there are name tags out there, I'd always go early, look at all the name tags. I'd see his name, wait until he picked it up, and then I'd go, hi, I want to introduce myself. I know you're from Lebanese. My sister was born in Beirut.
Yeah.
He went over and says, honey, come here.
Yeah,
His sister was born in Beirut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you're off and running,
Yeah, you're off and running, right? Would he give me his card? Yes. Would he give somebody else his card? Maybe no, because he knows they're going to try to sell him something. It was president of a big real estate company, right?
Yeah.
So I think if for a wrap, what I would say is, network with people that are different, or otherwise, what? I tell people, we're all different. And why are we all different? Because we're here to make a difference. So network, get out of your comfort zone, not a homogenous network, not people that are you. And then when you go to networking events, approach it by what can you do, how to get more by asking for less and doing more for others. And if you have an attitude of engagement and you practice those things, you'll see how your life will grow, and will grow dynamically.
Hank Blank, everybody.